Hi everybody, Michelle McLuhan here. I'm an astrologer and a life coach, and I help people to navigate their lives with their natal chart, with their birth chart, and also with what's going on for the collective at any one moment. So these new moon and full moon broadcasts I give you is to help us all align with the energy that's actually around us at the moment. So we're not fighting the energy, we're actually flowing with it. Astrology really is a science that's based on the fact that we are energetic beings and that whatever's happening out there is on some level happening to us as well. And then obviously looking at your own birth chart, you can see how that specifically impacts on you as a human being. So this week I'm going to be talking about the full moon in Libra, which is going to be happening on Sunday, the 28th of March, at around 10 to 9 in the evening in South Africa, but you can always look up to see what time it is for you in your particular part of the world, wherever you may be. And this is a really important full moon. I know I probably always say that, but this one is particularly special. So I'm going to try and explain it to you the way I see it. Always at full moon we have a polarity, and it's always going to happen when we have the sun in one sign and the moon in the sign that's opposite that. So this full moon, we have the sun in Aries and we have the moon in Libra, which is a big polarity. They're all big polarities, but particularly Aries and Libra. And I'll try and explain why. This one is a little bit different from normal because right next to the sun, we have the planet Venus, which is love, the love planet. And right next to that, we actually have Chiron, the wounded healer. And they're all together in a very, very close, what we call conjunction in astrology, at 8 degrees of Aries. And those three are opposing the sun. So if we have a look at, if we look at Libra to start with, and the Libra-Aries polarity, Aries, which is where the sun is about the self. Libra is about the other. So it's me versus you. What my needs are, what your needs are. When we have a full moon in Libra, it's about balancing those two. My needs, your needs. Me, you. So it's always got to do with relationships, and full moons are always a time when things tend to come to the surface. So the sun shines its light on the moon and makes it full. So it appears full to us from our perspective on the planet. So that's why we see the moon in her full glory. And there's a lot of energy that goes with it. So as we know, full moons are aligned. Moon cycles are aligned with the tides, with women's menstrual cycles. We bleed more at full moon. More people tend to have emotional meltdowns at full moon because the moon is our emotions in astrology, and when she's full, they tend to get quite big. It affects different people in different ways. Some people absolutely love full moon. So it's not to say that it's always bad. It just means that it brings things into the light. So if there's anything hiding in the corners at full moon, it'll tend to come out. With this being the relationship full moon, which is Libra, what could tend to come out is imbalances in relationships. Now, we need to see relationships not only in our spousal relationships, in our love relationships. We're talking here about relationships with everything. So we are constantly in relationship with other people, with ourselves, with our bodies, with our minds, with our environment, with our homes, with what we put into our bodies, what we eat, with the world around us, with the natural world, with our money, with our possessions. We're in relationship all the time. So this full moon is really looking at our relationships and where the imbalances might be. And this is a full moon where we're able to actually start to bring them into balance. The other thing about Libra is Libra has to do with harmony, peace, and balance. It also has to do with justice. So it's really the sign, if you look at the kind of keywords associated with Libra, it's a sign that's often associated with social justice. Truth, law, is very often aligned with Libra because it's the sign of bringing justice to, bringing balance to. Now at the moment, we have a lot of polarity on our planet. We have a lot of imbalance. We have a lot of injustice right now. And that seems to be coming to the surface. So I would say that around about this time, even more stuff's going to come up to the surface. So we need to kind of be awake and aware and conscious in our own being to actually kind of filter out the truth from the lies. So that's one of the main themes of this full moon. It's always going to have to do with bringing things back into balance. Libra is the scales. And if you played with scales when you were young, I know we did, there was always that point where you had to put a little weight on this side and put another little weight on that side, and we had to constantly rebalance the scales until you got to that perfect balance. And if you sit on the one side of the scale, the other scale is going to be out of balance. So it's a constant balancing act. So really the place that we find balance is in the middle, not on either side. So this is a reminder for us to come back into balance over and over again, as many times as we need to on any given day, with all the chaos that's going around us, to bring ourselves back into the center of the wheel. So that's a little bit more about Libra. Now I'm going to go a little bit deeper because this is quite a deep and potent full moon. So right next to the sun in Aries, we have, as I said, the planet Venus, and we have something called Chiron, which is actually an asteroid, but it's a potent one. It's known as the wounded healer. So we have all three of those together. And if we break them down a little bit and we look at what the sun and Chiron together mean, the sun really represents our the self, how we shine our light into the world. Chiron, the wounded healer, or you could call it the wisdom healer. So we all come in as incarnate beings on this planet, and we all have a very similar, or probably the same, primal wound, which is the separation from source, the separation from who we really are, without the roles, the body, the name, the expectations, and all the things that go with our lives on earth. The primal wound is that initial separation and that longingness that many of us have to actually return to that oneness. So let's just say we could call that oneness love, that we come from love. This journey in our lives is a return to love. What is love? Well, love is it's oneness. The opposite of love would be separation, division, polarity. Our minds, as useful as they are when we make them the servant, are very good at polarizing. That's what the mind does. It says yes, no, black, white, good, bad, past, present. Love is all of that. So you could see love not as a sentiment, not as a romantic ideal, but as a state of being, a state of consciousness. And this full moon is literally triggering that and calling us home, because the sun and Chiron, so the sun and Chiron is that primal wound, and they're sitting there together. So it's bringing that to the surface for many people. True healing comes when we actually realize that we are not separate, that we are actually connected to all that is. Okay, so this is a chance, this full moon, to heal at a deeper level that sense that we are separate. And that comes from really connecting with who we really are at our essence. Who are we at our core? We are love at our core. Could be one way of looking at it. It's the way that I prefer to look at it. It's a very, very helpful model, if you like, or map. We can all make our own decisions, but this is a little bit of a navigational tool. So imagine that we are love at our core, and then we are separated from love, but we never really are. We feel separated from love. That's Chiron. Now, right next to this, in this little conjunction that we also have Venus, which is the planet of love. So this is very clear. This says that this is a full moon where we're able to heal our relationship with ourselves through being authentic, through being compassionate, through being loving, through being kind, through being forgiving. It's also at the same time as we forgive and love and are compassionate towards ourselves and show ourselves self-love, that then ripples out into the world and actually helps other people to connect with the same. And this is where our power is. This is where our true sovereignty is the ability and the return to that huge power that lies within us. And I think this is what this year, this past year, and this year that we're in now is actually showing us, is who are we and how can we actually step into our sovereignty. What is sovereignty? It's being authentic in terms of who you are at your essence. It's not got to do with the ego. It's not got to do with all the roles that we have. It's returning to who you are in the middle of you. Who you were before you came, and who you will be after you leave this body. So this is really deep. This is about self-love. It's about looking at how we talk to ourselves, how we treat ourselves. Do we treat ourselves with the same amount of love that we expect others to give us? And if not, then this is the time to actually do this. We're starting a new year astrologically. Aries the sun has just moved into Aries, which is the start of a new year every year. So this is a year to actually treat ourselves differently and to really see how whole we are actually. Healing means wholeness. It means remembering, which means bringing the parts of ourselves back into wholeness. And this full moon is part of that journey. So that's not all. There's actually a little bit more. The other thing that we need to look at is in this chart, and I'll put a little chart up here on the side, we also have what we call an air trine, which is basically a triangle, and it's between the moon, Mars, and Saturn, all in air signs. And what that really is the driving of radical change. Now, one of those corners of the trine also houses what we call the North Node. And the North Node is about our purpose. So this year, the nodal axis lies on the axis of Sagittarius and Gemini, which is information, Gemini, and truth, Sagittarius. Sagittarius is also aligned with the law, and Gemini is aligned with all the information that we gather. So this is a time when it's never been more important, as far as I can see, with the world that is in such crisis at the moment, to look at what the truth is, to take our blinkers off, to drop our preconceived notions, to really look at things clearly from the heart, not from the head. So when we read something, to look at it not from the eyes of someone who's trying to analyze it, strategize it, weigh up the pros and cons, but to actually feel into what we're looking at, what we're reading, and connect with where it's actually resonating with us, inside, in our hearts, not here. Because the head will always give us both. The heart is that love point, which is non-dual. So when you go into the heart, that's where you find the truth. It's very difficult to find it in the head. You can weigh up the pros and cons, But when you're actually looking for the truth, you find it inside you, from that knowingness. And no one else can tell you anything else because you know what's true. Despite what other people might say, despite what other people might be telling you, despite what leaders might be telling you, scientists might be telling you. So this is a time, as we're in the age of Aquarius, as we enter into the age of Aquarius, where we're being called upon to actually look further, look out the box, to really look at what we need for our own bodies, what we need for our own health in many respects. And this is the year of choice, but it's got to be choice that is made from inside, from what we know to be true. So really that is what we're doing this year. And this full moon is just so perfectly positioned to actually help us to do that, because it's starting out, we're starting out with this full moon. So it's releasing. Full moons are always a time to release. It's releasing that which we don't need, which doesn't serve us. It's releasing those conditioned thoughts about ourselves that we're somehow lacking, and somehow we're flawed and we need to be better, do more, achieve more. It's not true. That's the lie. So what if you were perfectly fine exactly as you are? What if there was nothing you had to do to improve yourself? What if you were a divine spark of light? And that's all you have to be. When we work from that position, knowing that we're already whole, that nothing in the outside world is going to make us more whole, nothing, then we can actually shine that light out in a very truly authentic way. And that then leads us to serving, our service in the world. So it's a beautiful full moon to step into our true power, to realize that we can choose our consciousness. We might not be able to choose what happens, what's happening, but we can choose how we see it. We can choose our frequency. So we're all given a birth chart. Some of it, we sometimes don't have choice. We do have choice in the soul realm when we choose the birth chart. But as human beings living our lives, we just live what we've been with what we've been given, the parents we've been given, the conditioning, the upbringing, and all of that. So you can't necessarily choose your conditions, but you can choose your consciousness, or you can choose your frequency in any moment. So we can buy into fear, or we can go in the direction of love. At any moment, we can separate, or we can come together. We can open, or we can close. If we close, we just have to know what we're doing. We're in fear. When we're fearful, we can be controlled. When we're not fearful, we cannot be controlled. We are sovereign beings. And sovereign is a word that's associated with Aries. And we're in the month of Aries. We're starting out our new year, really. So that's about it from me. Use this full moon. Really sort of do a little ritual, go outside, let go of what you don't need. Open yourself to something new. Say, okay, I'm open to new information. I'm willing to let go of preconceived notions that I might have about anything. I'm opening myself up to new beliefs, new perceptions, new information. And then I'm going to look at it, and then I'm going to actually make a choice wherever it is in my life from here. So it all really boils down to love. There really is nothing else. And I drew a card just because I like drawing cards. And again from this Divine Feminine pack. And please don't see it as just for women, because we all have a feminine and a masculine inside us. And the feminine is as important as the masculine. The masculine is as important as the feminine. But we're a little bit out of balance on our planet. And we're bringing ourselves back into balance by honoring the feminine within us. And the feminine within us is the accepting, is the being part, is this, it's the knowing. It's not the doing, it's the knowing. So this card that I pulled is so beautiful. If you think that Aries is the birth of the new year, I pulled the cosmic egg, which basically the sort of theme. I hold the universe within me. I am the force of an ever-expanding love. I'll read it to you. The cosmic egg is the core symbol of the divine feminine's creative force. It's a spiritual motive found in the creation myths of countless cultures and civilizations. It represents a birth, a new beginning, or an expansion of life. When your soul selects this card, nothing needs to happen. Everything is exactly as it should be. I'll read that again. Nothing needs to happen. Everything is exactly as it should be. You hold the universe inside you, not separate. All life emerges from within. If you try to exert pressure for something to exist before it's ready, that new life within you will not have the time it needs to fully form. The cosmic egg is the essence of the divine feminine. It's the ultimate symbol of the creative force that exists within each one of us. It's the dark, loving womb that holds and protects all creative expressions of life. If we allow what's within us to emerge in divine timing, in soul time, then what's within us will transform us. The egg is the trust that what is ours can never be taken away from us. So there's no need to answer the ego's push to rush the process, impress others, or complete something on someone else's timeline. The egg is the faith that our process is sacred, that even in the midst of what looks like chaos, or delay, or even death, there's a tendril of new life that needs only our trust to eventually take form. And the egg is the knowing that life begins again, after death, from within. So the soul voice meditation is, where am I ready to expand? And the intention is, I hold the universe within me. I am the force of an ever-expanding love. So this full moon is about acknowledging that we are that force. We hold that force inside us. That's our power. So I hope this has been helpful. And yes, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching if you watched. We are running a new Journey to Freedom course. We have started already. There is still time to pop aboard if you like. I'll put the link in below. It's a 13-week course. It's quite life-changing. And really, our course is called the Journey to Freedom. It really is the journey to love. That's what it is. So we'd love you to join us. And otherwise, you can get hold of me on any of the websites below, the 2 websites below, or you can email me. Thanks so much for listening, everybody. Take good care of yourself. Be kind, be gentle, and come from here. That's where your power is. Thanks for listening.